A few weeks ago, I started a friendly collaboration with Tobi from the channel Paintquest. I was really inspired by Tobi's videos all about giving life and character to models that might not otherwise make it to the painting table. The time has now come for me to give something for him to paint, and I've come up with something a little bit out there. If you haven't already seen part 1 of this collab, you can check it out up here, where Tobi sent me through Marshall Darkstar, a converted hive scum for Necromunda, with a series of cool little additions like 3D printed bits and animals roaming around on the base. For the model I was making for Tobi, I knew I wanted to do something that he could incorporate into his Kroot Kill Team, a group of space scavengers who loot whatever they can in order to be able to launch their daring pirate raids on unsuspecting members of the galaxy. Then I thought, what if, in the depths of a Space Hulk, they happened upon something truly amazing? The husk of a Space Marine Dreadnought. Here's how I made the Dreadnought, aka the Dreadnought, come together. Now, one of the best things about having been in the hobby for a little while is that you gather a number of bits from various different sources over the years. One of my best sources for this project was the Furioso Dreadnought, Death Company Dreadnought, Librarian Dreadnought sprue for Blood Angels. The reason this kit is so great is because it can build 3 different dreadnoughts in one, and as such it has a variety of different options for front panels and weapons, which you can chop and change. Once you've built one, there's a load of awesome cool bits for scratch building. Now, I wasn't going to be able to get everything from my bits box, so I headed to eBay to pick up some Kroot for the pilot who's going to sit in the center of the dreadnought's body. Now, to simulate these Kroot's propensity for scavenging from their enemies, I turned to the Orcs section of my bits box. Jagged bits of metal, exposed wires, and varying different kinds of weaponry are going to really help to lend to the aesthetic that this is a weapon cobbled together from whatever the Kroot could find around them. For the last bit, to complete the look, this dreadnought got some new kicks in the form of some Contemptor Dreadnought feet. For whatever reason, when Forge World sent them over, I mean, probably because the price is massively expensive, they always send them with a couple of pairs of feet. With parts ready, building can now commence. Starting with the driver, whose name is utterly unpronounceable to humans, so let's call him Bob for ease. I knew I wanted Bob's cheeky head poking out of the dreadnought's head area, but I wasn't sure how else I was going to arrange this machine. I started out with the basic structure, mostly inspired by some orc weapons that with a bit of modification worked as legs with these amazing looking pistons. Now, I pinned the feet to these legs for as much structural rigidity as I could manage. That's about the last sensible decision I made in this build, as then my inner child took over and I started super gluing things left, right and center. After a bit of work posing the body and sticking the feet to the base, once I was happy, I started working on some rails where Bob was going to stand, as the piston legs didn't have any way for him to stay in the cockpit. I made some rails for him to stand on out of black plasticard, but I couldn't ever get the feet, torso and legs to all line up. It was like a game of 4D Tetris where nothing really seemed to go together. As I knew I wanted Bob's head poking out, I decided to sort that out first, and secured him in place with a frankly embarrassing amount of milliput. I took another dreadnought front and cannibalized it so that the front and back would be symmetrical on the body. I sculpted some more milliput around awkward joins like the ankles. Now, at this point, my lack of planning was starting to show. Bob wouldn't stay put in his harness, the body wasn't secure, and was wobbling any time I attempted to add anything to it. Something had to give, and unfortunately, in this case, that was Bob's legs. I imagine the Kroots being a part of the Tau Empire engaged with sort of, meditation and spiritualism, and that's the only way I can justify to myself the position that Bob has to kneel in order to pilot this absolute monstrosity. Once I'd snipped his legs, losing one of them across the room for a solid half an hour due to a bit of exuberant snipping, I repositioned them with milliput into a kneeling position into a new piece which I believe is either from an orc battle wagon or a death dread. Let me know if you can identify any of these parts in the comments down below. With Bob ensconced in his spiritual retreat, I then snipped off the Blood Angel's trim from the front panels. Some of my structural rigidity worries started to ease with the addition of his autocannon arm, before I then added a Kroot arm operating a jerry-rigged las cannon to the other side. Like I said, my inner child was just having so much fun with this project. Now this is far from a refined kit bash, but there were still some areas I wanted to sort before I sent the model off to Tobi. As it's the first place you look on any Mini, I wanted the face area to look really great. I experimented with a few different things here, but I opted in the end for some wires snaking the power through this hulking mechanical monstrosity. With those wires added and my need to kit bash something completely absurd, thoroughly satisfied, I spray painted in black and sent him off to Tobi. A little too quickly, if I'm perfectly honest, because I realised I'd forgotten to do any turntable shots. Fortunately, Tobi's got my back on this one, and so here you have it, straight from Germany, the KROOT, all ready for a coat of paint in whatever style Tobi is going to paint it up as. I'm really excited to see what he does, as this one was a real sort of off the top of my mind into the sort of plastic form. So I'm really excited to see what it looks like once it's got a little bit of paint on it as well. It's also always amazing to me that as soon as you put that first layer of primer on, most of the kit bashing worries are gone. Everything just flows a lot better together and it seems like a lot more of a coherent whole. Now, what you need to do next is go over to Tobi's video where he paints up the KROOT. I can't wait to see what he does with it. In the meantime, thanks so much for watching. My name has been Ollie. This has been my hobby, and I'll see you next time.